back once again to the imaginary gallery. It's TJ, your host. 10 reasons for the abusive person to stay the same. Once again referencing Lundy Bancroft's book, Why Does He Do That? Inside the minds of angry and controlling men. And we're sticking more with the men this evening just to avoid confusion. So if it's a lady you're thinking of, just switch the pronoun to she instead of he. We left off at number 5, so we'll jump right into number 6. Financial control. Money is a leading cause of tension in today's relationships, at least with families that have children. Financial choices have huge quality of life implications, including who gets to make all the purchases that matter most to him, what kinds of preparations are made for future, including retirement, what kinds of leisure activities and travel are engaged in, who gets to work, who gets to not work if it doesn't want to, and how are these children's needs being met. To have your voice in these decisions taken away is a monumental denial of your rights and has long-term implications. On the flip side, the abusive person who dominates these kinds of decisions extorts important benefits for itself, whether the family is low income or rich. One of the most common tactics that Bancroft hears about is that the abusive person manages to manipulate dealings so that its name is on its partner's belongings, such as the car or the house, along with or instead of her name. In fact, he says he has clients whose abuse was almost entirely economically based and who managed to take many thousands of dollars away from the partners, whether it's openly or through covert financial tricks. An abusive person's history of economic exploitation tends to put him in a much better financial position than the partner if the relationship were to split in two. This imbalance makes it harder for the lady to leave the guy, especially if she has to find some kind of way to support her kids. He could also threaten to use his advantages to hire a lawyer and try to pursue custody of these children, which is one of the most terrifying prospects that can face an abused lady. Number 7, ensuring that his career, his education, or his other goals are prioritized. Closely interwoven with financial control is the question of whose personal goals are to receive top priority. If the abusive person needs to be out several evenings, studying for some kind of degree or certificate that's going to improve his job advancement potential, he is going to do it. If a career opportunity for him involves having to move to a new state, he's likely to ignore the impact this may have on the partner and or the kids. Her own goals may also advance at times, but only as long as they do not have any kind of interference with his. Number 8, public status of partner and or father without the sacrifices. With his very strong people-pleasing skills and his lively sense of energy when under the public gaze, the abusive man is very often thought of as an unusually fun, sweet, loving, wonderful partner and a committed daddy. He soaks up smiles and appreciation, adoration he gets from the relatives, the neighbors, and the people on the street who have no idea of what an evil devil he is in private. Number 9, the approval of his friends and relatives. The abusive person many times chooses friends who are supportive of abusive type attitudes. On top of that, he may have also come from an abusive family. In fact, his father or his stepfather may have been his key role model for how to treat the female partner. If these happen to be his social surroundings, he'll get strokes for knowing how to control the partner. thumbs up for putting her in her place from time to time, and for ridiculing complaints that she may have about him especially. His friends and relatives may even bond with him on the basis of his view on women in general, and believing that ladies are vindictive and irrational. For this man to renounce abuse, he would have to give up his cheerleading squad as well. And the last, number 10, an abused person subtly or overtly imposes a system in which he's exempt from the rules and the standards that apply to you. He may allow himself to have occasional affairs, but you're not allowed to, because men have their needs. But if you so as much as gaze at another man, you are automatically a narcopath hoa. He may scream and yell in arguments, but if you raise your voice even once, you will become labeled hysterical. He may pick up one of your kids by the ear, but if you grab your son and put him in timeout for punching you in the leg, then you will be labeled as a child abuser. He can leave his schedule open and flexible while you are required to account for every moment of your time. He can point out your faults while setting himself above criticism so that he won't have to deal with your complaints or be confronted with the effects of his selfish and his destructive actions. The abusive person has the privilege of living by a special set of rules that were designed specifically for him. Now, Bancroft tells us to glance back quickly over this impressive collection of privileges. Is it any wonder that abusive men are not willing to change? The benefits of abuse are a major social secret, which he states is very rarely ever mentioned anywhere. Why? Well, largely because abusive people are specialists at distracting attention. They don't want anybody to notice how well the system is working for them, and usually won't want to admit to it themselves, because if we caught on, we'd stop feeling sorry for it and instead start holding it accountable for all of its actions. As long as we see these abusive people as victims or as out-of-control creatures, they will continue getting away with ruining lives. If we want the abusive person to change, we will have to require them to give up the luxury of exploitation. When you're left feeling confused and hurt after a confrontation with your abusive and controlling monster, you have to ask yourself, what was he trying to get out of what he just did? What's the benefit to him ultimately? Thinking through these questions can help you clear your head and identify also his tactics. Certainly, the abusive man or woman also loses a great deal through its abusive behaviors. It loses the potential for genuine intimacy in the relationship and its capacity for compassion and empathy. But these are many times not the things that he values, so he may not feel their absence at all. And even if he would like a greater sense of intimacy, that wish is going to be outweighed by his attachment to the benefits of the abuse.
I am the Narcopath.
I know that you saw one of my friends who was at the watering hole, who I went off to speak with privately. He told me he was having a big Christmas party. And I thought, well, that sounds great. I was invited, so I came over to you and said, oh, my friend's having a Christmas party. We're welcome to go. Well, in between that week, I was fixed up with another guy behind your back that you were not meant to know about, who happens to know the same guy throwing the party. That complicated things, because he saw us together and invited both of us to the same party. The next week, I went and talked to him again, as far as you know, and told him, oh, your party sounds great. Can I bring my friend? And pointed to you And I said, oh, he's just a friend. I knew that he knew about the other guy. Plus, I knew they were all invited. I just asked him to fix me up with one of his other friends. And again, stressed that you were just a friend. And then I marched on right back to you and said, honey, we ain't going to that party. He's trying to fix me up with one of his friends. I told him I was 100% satisfied with you. The nerve of him. And of course I did that so you would not like him and hopefully cause some trouble in my name. Plus, I couldn't afford to see the other guy I've been dating behind your back and you in the same place. So I had to think of something. I'm very intelligent.
Since I'm giving you confessions, I might as well go all the way.
I know when we were talking about our preferences, I told you about how I loved the feeling of having two men's rockets inside my Virginia, thrusting in and out at the same time.
I got a little carried away in my description. You wanted to do that, and I told you, oh, I could never do that with someone I love like you.
You started asking questions. You figured out that I like that kind of thing. Two rockets in my Virginia. How was I going to fulfill that fantasy then? Because I told you I wanted to be with you and you only. And there was a problem. You and you only means
one rocket in this Virginia, and I like to have two, so I regretted telling you that, but
you tried to set us up with another person, and I said, I can't do that. I'm in love with you. I would be too jealous that you might like the other guy better than my Virginia.
I can't have that. Well, you figured it out, that if I have a fetish for doing that kind of stuff.
Well, I'm going to do it with two other people, not the one I'm dating.
And you were so smart and figured that out. I just told you, no, there comes a time when you don't want to do that stuff anymore. Even though I had done it the night before with two other guys, but I couldn't tell you this stuff. Come on now. I was trying to take over your bank account. I was going to take over your life and get you put away so I could have your home and party on down and make it into a brothel.
Since I'm giving you confessions, I might as well give you one last one. You know how there's a state right next door to our state? Your parents happen to live over there, and one particular night we were going over to see them. It was your brilliant idea for us to go to one of the nightclubs there. I told you I was tired, but there was no getting around it because you were dead set on going. And of course we went in there, and I didn't have my little agreements with those people. I didn't have a chance to get to them. People kept walking up to me, sticking their tongues out, pinching my bottom, calling me sexy, all kinds of things. Which, of course, I just pretended like I had no idea what they were talking about. You kept asking, who's that? Who's that? I told you I don't have any clue who these people are. I don't know why they're talking to me.
Now, I'm not one to get embarrassed, but some of them actually knew my name, and you heard it. I played the whole thing off as if, I don't know, they must have guessed, they must have seen it on my ID, somebody must have told them. Well, the truth was, when we were dating, I had used up our city. I'd used up the whole town. Everybody knew what a whore I was. They knew how I lied, cheated, and so on, so I had to start somewhere else. It just so happened to be the very state next door that you brought us to. That's why they all knew my name. Because I'd been with every single last one of them. But I couldn't let you know that. That would damage my reputation to you. So I pretended like I didn't know who they were. I almost got away with it too. So now you know. Now maybe it makes sense.